Hey guys, back to Pair. We have got some Unholy buffs to talk about. As always, let's look at what they exactly are, how they impact us, and what kind of percentage gains we'll be looking at, as well as discussing quickly how this impacts our viability in various content. So, got them right up here. We have a couple of abilities that see some increased damage. So, Virulent Plague damage increased by 15%, Epidemic damage increased by 12%, Festering Strike damage increased by 20%, Festering Wound damage increased by 12%, and Ghoul Sweeping Claws damage increased by 15%. Just off the bat, these are quite large increases to various abilities, like when you see 15 to 20%, that is quite a lot. Most of these are AoE buffs. So, Virulent Plague, Epidemic, Sweeping Claws, all of those are AoE abilities in general. Like in single target, Virulent Plague does really little damage, but with Plus, since we pick a lot of talents that buff Virulent Plague, it does a significant amount of our damage. Epidemic obviously is an AoE only ability. Sweeping Claws does quite a lot of damage in single target, to be fair, but that's also primarily an AoE one. Festering Wound and Festering Strike. Festering Strike pretty much only used in single target, but that is a really small percentage of our total damage, like 1%. I think they just buffed that to kind of help the ability not being pressed at all. We're not that far away from completely ignoring Festering Strike and kind of just hitting Clone Shadows or Scourge Strike without caring about wounds at all. So they might also try and make sure we don't end up close to that kind of level. Anyway, how big are these buffs? So for Mythic Plus, we're looking at around 5% overall damage increase. Primarily then due to the fact that we now deal more AoE damage. I think this is great. 5% obviously is not like a huge amount, but it definitely helps. If you're doing 300k currently in a Mythic Plus environment, well, with 5% extra, you would do 315k. So that gives you kind of the comparison. Furthermore, this is what included some nerfs to overperforming classes. So we are being brought up a little bit, and a lot of classes are being brought down. So we definitely, narrowed the gap. I don't think this is gonna make us a meta class in Mythic Plus, but you can't complain either, because I think they were definitely needed. When it comes now to Frost versus Unholy Mythic Plus, it's hard to say, but I think Unholy has the edge now. Definitely with this buff. Depends on the dungeon and the size of the pools, but Unholy deals better, big AoE damage, worse in cleave scenarios. So it kind of depends exactly how you interact with a specific dungeon. Now, how does this affect single target then? Because I said that this is primarily an AoE buff, but some of these actually do matter in single target. Sweeping Claws using single target, Festering Wounds using single target, and Festering Strike also. By the way, I should mention Festering Wound damage. That increase does not apply to the Bursting Source ability. You might think that, well, that scales off the Festering Wound damage. It doesn't, that's a separate thing. So for the Wound Mythic Plus build, this wasn't as big of a buff compared to the standard disease ones. Primarily because we don't use much Virulent Plague, we don't use that much Epidemic in the same manner. Doesn't matter that much though, because Wound Beer wasn't played anyway. So it getting relatively worse doesn't really matter for anyone. Now, for single target, Festering Strikes uses single target, Virulent Plague does a little small amount, Festering Wound damage is also quite small. Overall, around 1.4% off-ish, right? It's quite tiny. I went from simming 199k to 202k. That's the kind of order of magnitude you're looking at, so it's not going to be a huge difference, which is a bit too bad. But again, we have some overperforming classes that were being brought down, so Unholy will be relatively better compared to everyone else, but I don't expect us to suddenly become, one of the better classes in the raid, unfortunately. But overall, 5%-ish in Mythic Plus. Disease build is now even gapping the wound build even more. Not that was even a choice to be made, really. Single target, 1.4, along with 3%-ish. Nice to have, but will not move the needle at all. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think about this video. Are you happy about the buffs? Would you like to see more? Upvote, downvote, consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you very much for watching. Bye bye.